Welcome to the Cowboy Up Podcast, where talk is all about the West. This episode is brought to you by White Stallion Ranch and produced by Cowboy Spirit USA. Debbie Dunnings lived a big life. Remember Heidi Keppert, the Tool Time girl on the TV hit Home Improvement? That was Debbie. And she's done so much more, including introducing America to dude ranching. And here she is at the ranch to chat with Russell and Alan all about it.
Does everybody know what time it is? Hey, it's time to cowboy up. Join me this week. I'm going to be their special guest. Can't wait to talk to you.
Morning, Alan. How are you?
Glad to be here as always. This is a good part of the world right here.
We've had a few false starts, but how's TV? You watching any?
I've been watching the Billy the Kid series, and I'm enjoying it, but I think it's kind of fun that he was one of the really bad guys, but on TV he's one of the good guys. So they portray him however they want to portray him.
Well, you know, I was at the ranch where the Lincoln County Wars, the Tunstall Ranch outside. It's kind of outside Roswell, I guess, New Mexico, and really beautiful old ranch, and he was part of that. That's how it all started when they killed Tunstall. And so anyway, we've got a star from one of the most beloved TV shows, Home Improvement, with Tim Allen, who played the Tool Man. The show ran from 91 to 99. One of the stars is with us today. Debbie Dunning is a multi-talented actress, host, lifestyle influencer. She rose to fame as Heidi Keppert, the Tool Time girl, in that 90s TV show, Home Improvement. And she won over audiences with her charming personality, stunning good looks. And she's recently been the host of her own TV show, Debbie Dunning's Dude Ranch Roundup. It was on, or it probably still is, on RFD TV. We've gotten to know Debbie very well, and she's just everything you'd want her to be, and just a good friend to us here at Dude Ranching. And she's also a do-it-yourself expert. She's really a great golfer. That's a big part of her life. And she's a big advocate for healthy living, motherhood. She's got kids that we know, and big part of her life. And she's into home renovation, like you would hope, healthy cooking, wellness tips with her fans on social media. She's got something new that we'll talk about later, VIP services. She's helping other people lead a healthy and fulfilling life. It's great to have you, Debbie.
Well, that is so nice of you to say all of those things. Thanks, Russell.
How do you make it all work? That sounds like an agenda and a half.
You know, it's funny, people ask me that exact question all the time. I have been blessed with so much energy, and it's not wearing out yet. So I'm just kind of living every minute to its fullest. If you really want to boil it down to, like, I'm running. I wish there was a camera following me daily just to say, look how much I got done, because it's a self thing where I'm like very proud of myself at the end of the day, and nobody really sees it. But it's funny, Russell, when you were kind of going through these things that I've done, it really, you know, it warms my heart. It makes me feel good. But I do have to say, after Home Improvement, when I went to a dude ranch with my daughter, it was Russell True's Dude Ranch, White Stallion, and it had left such a huge imprint on me that I just thought about it for year after year after year. And I called Russell. I mean, I don't know if you want to go straight into this story, but like literally I called and I said, I've got an idea, and I don't know the first thing about producing my own show about dude ranches, but I really want to showcase how much fun and what an experience, a family vacation this could be. And before I was even done with my sentence, Russell's like, I'll do whatever it takes. You can do this. Absolutely. And I will help you all the way. And, you know, I don't know if my audience out there who's listening today knows a lot about dude ranches, but I will tell you this, the most honest, loyal, hardworking people I've ever been around. And I wanted to be in this lifestyle. I wanted to dive right in. And Russell was the first ranch that I filmed. And then he introduced me to several other ranches, and we got a little momentum going. And I mean, really, really held my hand through the whole adventure, becoming a producer and, editing and making the schedule and doing things literally out of my comfort level that I'd never done before, climbing a rock straight up, held my hand and pushed me, and I did it. And I owe so much of this to you. And I'm sure you've done this to many people in your life, but it has affected me. And then I became part of this Dude Ranch family, which I feel like I could call any of these ranches. And I've been able to showcase 50 of the ranches across the U.S. and it's been such a blessing. But I've made some lifetime friends and really exposed Dude Ranches to the great things. It's not just about, having barbecue and riding a horse, which people say, like, what is that? Is that something like City Slickers? I'm like, not exactly. So, but yeah, I've had such a incredible past 6 years of, exploring the U.S. and seeing the differences. But one thing that's always the same, equal to all these ranches, is the hard work and the genuine people that I get to meet. There's no Hollywood. There's no fake. It's all authentic, and it's a life and a place I love to be, and I love to be surrounded by.
Well, you describe it really well, Debbie.
Yeah,
I want them to sign me up after hearing your description.
Well, we just want to have you keep talking. You went to 50. I thought it was 40, so it was even more than I knew. 50 ranches. What's one of your favorite stories at one of the ranches? Any of them. Doesn't have to be all.
Gosh, well, I've had so many. I remember when I was at White Stallion and we got to cut, one of the calves out of the herd. And I'm so competitive. I felt like I'd been doing it for years. And then I remember, you allowing me to run barrels, and I had to beat a time. And so I beat the time. And the next year I came back, I beat it again. And these type of things are so crazy. I was at Western Pleasure. I brought my friends, Joe and Tara Diffie, the late Joe Diffie, and he opened up and he said to me, he's like, I don't know why I've never taken my family on a vacation like this. He goes, I guess because I come from this type of thing, horseback riding. I didn't think that this would be the vacation for them, but it was one of his happiest moments. And it led him to being around the fire. And I have to tell you, I'm probably going to tear up to tell you, but he opened up and he didn't know what he was going to do. And I said, you don't have to have a schedule with me. It's authentic, and whatever happens, happens. But we have a pretty rapid pace, and we go from one thing to another. And I don't expect you to do everything. But he opened up and sang a song about his dad, and it brought tears to everybody's eyes, including his. And at the end of that trip, I think it was Idaho, Western Pleasure in Idaho. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
He was, it's hard for me to remember them all.
Janice and Raleigh Schoonover.
Yes,
She's currently DRA president. Sorry for the interruption.
Woo,
Back
look
to
at
Joe.
her. Of course she is. Well, Joe sang a song about his dad, and he literally thanked everybody right after that song. We had it all on camera, and we lost Joe 3 months after from COVID. That was in the beginning of COVID when they put the ventilator in your mouth, and it took him. He wasn't in the best of health anyway, but it wasn't his time. And that was one of those moments where I was like so blessed to have had that last time with him. And I still have all that footage that I can look back at and just cherish. Another one was I was at Horseshoe Canyon in Arkansas, and they said we were going for a little hike. We weren't going for a hike. We were climbing a slate rock flat wall, and we were traversing. And I remember being exhausted, and my heart was beating so fast at the end because you do walk a tightrope at the end, and you are, blocks, I don't know, a mile up. I don't know how far up we were. I mean, everything looked really small. And then you finish it with a half a mile zip line. And I just threw my arms out because it's a sitting zip line and just looked up to God. And I said, thank you so much for this experience that I'm living my best life. And you know what they say, if you love what you do, you're not working a day in your life. So I was really, really excited to have that moment to myself and go, wow, I did that. I actually did that. So, I mean, sometimes these dude ranches, people get a little nervous. They're like, I don't know if I can do that. But the greatest thing is like Russell, he can talk to somebody and know exactly what horse in that stable is going to be that guy's horse or that girl's horse or that young child's horse. And they get that horse for the whole week. And there's a bond that's formed in that small amount of time, and a confidence that you see with these people after they step off the horse. There's also very sore legs, but you know what? It's so worth it. And I would see this time and time again, and I would get so excited about going to my next ranch. One of the stories that repeats itself constantly is these kids come in, their college summer or high school summer, and they come work at a dude ranch. Well, I think I was in my first year. I heard 9 stories from the dude ranch owners. That's how they met. That's how they fell in love. It was their happiest time. So they decided to own their own dude ranch and keep it going. So it's just a beautiful thing. And I fortunately had that experience when I took my daughter when she was 12 to Russell's. And it's been like that ever since. I've taken all 3 of my children and included them on my show, of course, in the summers when they're not in school. And it's become a passion and a love for all of them. They just love it, and they go back.
Well, it's been a real growing experience for me. When I grew up, I lived on a dumbest thing to say, I lived on a real ranch. I lived on a cow-calf ranch, not a dude ranch, and we looked down our noses at the dude ranches and said, well, we're the real ranchers. But guess what? Since I've been coming here and met Russell and everything, they're just as much ranchers as I ever was, and they just have a different livestock that they take care of, and
we get to match them.
Yeah, you sure do.
So I'm going to tell a Debbie Dunning story, and I've been working 25 years on a collection of stories that I've lived here at White Stallion, and this is one of them. If it ever happens, this is going to be one of the stories. And Debbie, you may or may not remember it because it just symbolizes you. So we were down in Tombstone filming and we were because you had a very narrow window of time. So we were trying to get in 5 days, both Rancho de los and Sassabee and Tombstone Monument Ranch in Tombstone filmed for your show. And so, you were a lean, mean crew, and we were running and gunning, and your guys were great. And so we ran into a guy who recognized you on the streets of Tombstone, and kind of a well-spoken, chatty guy. And he said, hey, Debbie Dunning's in Tombstone. He said, is there anything I could do for you? And you said, well, yeah, I want to get in that mine tour. Russell didn't set that up. We'd set everything else up. I didn't, the mine I hadn't thought of. So you said, yeah, get me in that mine. You'll have done me a favor. And so he goes, well, coincidentally, I used to work in that mine. So he got you in the mine, and I didn't go down. You guys all went down, and you filmed it, and you came back up, and you thanked the guy, and he said, well, he says, I'm going to the Four Deuces for a beer at 5 o'clock. I go every day at 5 o'clock, and I'm going to buy you a beer. And you said, yeah, okay, I'll see you there. Now, I figured that was the end of that. So we're running and gunning and trying to get that show filmed, and we're finished, and I'm trying to hustle you and the crew into the van to go back to the ranch, and you said, hey, wait a minute, I don't remember his name, I think it was Doug. I told Doug I'd have a beer with him at the Four Deuces. I said,
yeah, I remember.
And I said, really? And you said, I told him I would, and I am. So we went to the Four Deuces, and he was as shocked as I was, because you come walking up, and he goes, Debbie, you came. And he says, I owe you a beer. And you said, you do. And so you guys went and sat at the bar, and I sat with Matt and John, and we sat at a table and watched you with your new friend, and he bought you a beer, and he said, you know, Debbie, my mother is a huge fan of Home Improvement and really loved you in it. And you reached over in a very Debbie Dunning style and grabbed his phone out of his hand and scrolled through till you found Mom and dialed it.
Yeah.
And her name was Doris.
I remember this.
And you dialed this thing and you said, hey, what's your mother's name? And he said, Doris. And you said, hello, Doris. What time is it?
I think I said, hey, Doris, I have a question for you. Does everybody know what time it is? And she's like, well, and I think she gave me the time. And I'm like, okay, I explained who I was. And I think
but
she
you
kind
go,
of
no, because you said, well, Doris, it's tool time. And you said, this is Debbie Dunning sitting with your son in the Four Deuces.
That's a cool story.
And
Yeah.
that story is you. So anyway, great story. But I know that you liked the cast you were part of in Home Improvement. You've spoken very, very well of them for lots of times. So I want to come back. We got to take a break, but I want to come back if you've got a great Tim Allen story, because of course he's a huge star and we'd love to hear. So we're going to take a break and listen. Stuart Rosebrook of True West Magazine, our favorite magazine. He's going to update us on the latest at True West.
Okie doke.
Well, thank you, Russell. It's great to be back on the Cowboy Up podcast today, talking about True West Magazine and everything Western. We have got a great December issue for our readers, and I think that they will discover some new stories in here that we have never published about, or if we have, it's been very infrequent. Our cover story is Liver Eaton Johnson. How did he earn his terrifying nickname? This is a wonderful excerpt by an author who, it's the first time I've worked with him, DJ Herda. I think everyone will really enjoy this feature. Some great art and some great photography. Actually, the cover story is brought to us by Thomas Minkler, who wrote a big book this past year. He's a big collector and Western historian out of Montana. And Montana, the Paper Trail, I really highly recommend it. Also, our friend from Australia, from Down Under, James Mills, comes back with a big feature on grizzlies in the far west. I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the Liver Eaton Johnson story. And then we have a photo feature called Pioneer Pets, how they help settle the West. I think everyone will get a big smile on their face at the holiday time to read that feature. Our travel guide takes people across the West to a series of small towns, including Tombstone, that in Prescott, that we think people should go and visit and immerse themselves in everything Western. They're great places to kick back and really discover the Old West. And so I think people will find our travel guide in this issue, the Ultimate Travel Guide. Also has we've got a big guide to Western saloons across the West. I think people will really be intrigued by that. Also, Henry Park, who's one of our longtime columnists on Western film and television, he has a classic True West in here on the best mountain men movies. So if you love Jeremiah Johnson, read Henry Park's story to find out what he thinks is the best mountain man movie of all time. We also this concludes our 70th year of publishing, and so we've had a lot of fun this past year looking back on how we have covered our subjects over the last 70th year, how we brought the True West to our Western readers for 70 years. And there aren't many other magazines out there that have been doing that. And so check out Mountain Men, Grizzlies, and Christmas. And I think it'll bring a smile to your face and maybe even get you out there to read True West Magazine and get on the road and to immerse yourself in everything Western. So that's it for December. We look forward to talking to you all about our January, February issue, which is Best of the West, when we come back and talk to the Cowboys for the next Cowboy Up podcast. Back to you, Russell and Alan.
So Tim Allen, there must be a million stories.
Yeah. Tim and I had our dressing rooms. Myself, Tim, and Rick, who played Al, all three of us were at the very top of the stairs. And Tim was across the hall from me. So anytime, I grew up being scared, scaring people. Like, it was always my thing. I still do it. He's always in his head and he's got something in his mind, and he'll come up the stairs at a certain pace, and you knew it was him. I would get on my knees and my hands, and as soon as he'd get to the top of the stairs, I would, like a dog, bark at him and go, and always scare the heck out of him. I have to tell you, though, about Tim. Tim is so kind, and he's so caring about his family and his crew that he has kept the family from home improvement, taken them, and I'm saying the crew family, everybody behind the scenes, from makeup to set dressers, all that. He's taken them to Last Man Standing. He's taken them to his show on the History Channel that he had for a little bit with Rick called More Power. He's just one of those guys. And I remember when I started the show, someone had said, you know what happened to Tim, right? When he was a kid. I'm like, no, I don't know that much about him, really. I mean, I do remember watching him his first stand-up after I kind of got the job, thinking he was so much funnier than I even gave him credit for, because when we're working, he's not doing stand-up. But his quick wit and his deliverance of his jokes were just, amazing. So I understood why he was so successful. But he was driving, I guess there's 8 kids, and he was driving, and, back in the day, you didn't have to wear a seatbelt, and his dad and mom were in the front seat, and the kids were going crazy in the back, just doing their thing, and not really paying attention to what was about to happen. And his father had kind of seen this drunk driver, and he was trying to figure out a way, because it was a pretty steep cliff to the right, and he was trying to figure out a way to get around it, and he just couldn't. And so he maneuvered the car to take the hit, which killed his father instantly. And everybody survived. And his mother raised all these children on her own. And when I tell you the story about how he's kept a family together, this is why. He came from somebody so strong, this woman, and obviously so frugal, but put like really, really good lessons into being a family and always working it out so that you could keep a family together. And you can't imagine, that for somebody who's so successful and comedic, but he really is. He took his crew to do the Santa Clauses. I mean, it's just, and like at the very last Santa Claus, he brought his daughter on, and he's like, hey, she's my daughter. I don't expect her to have I just want her to have an audition. She blew him away. She got the lead elf. If you've seen the last one. Yeah, that's his actual daughter. And it's just crazy because people only see certain things. But when you get to see somebody 5 days a week for, 7, 8 years, that becomes a different family to you. And when it ends, you kind of go through a very low place. It's cool, though, because now I'm like rewatching the shows and just remembering how much we laughed. We laughed so very much. And there were so many things that really happened in real life that they would put into the script. And I love that Patricia fought for a woman being equally as strong as the man in, the parenting and the working and everything else. I mean, she was way ahead of her time. But everything about going to work then and now has always been really fun for me, and it's been a blessing. I was really lucky. I was really lucky to have landed that. I didn't land it right away. I was a different character the first year. I came in as a girl who was just trying to get an autograph. So I got lucky when they called me back. I never even knew what the Tool-Time Girl was, to be honest, when I came to the audition. So I just feel like my birthday's 7/11. I always have lucky numbers and lucky people in my life.
Well, what drew you to acting in the first place?
I grew up with a father who's bipolar, so he was in and out of mental hospitals. So my mom was pretty much the, provider of, keeping a roof over our heads. They got married when they were 18 years old in high school and had two young kids by the time they were 21. So when my dad was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and manic depression, he went down. And so my brother and I went to work. And I've been working my butt off. I mean, I had 2 paper routes. I was doing every little thing. And my girlfriend said, why don't you get into a bikini contest? It's like $500 on the weekends. I was like, oh, I don't know. So I showed up in probably the most conservative bathing suit. It was my first stab at it. And I mean, these girls had these bathing suits way over their hip, equal with their belly buttons. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am so out of my league. But I guess that was refreshing, and I won. And so I won the first one, and then we were robbed that year. My parents, it was when you used to buy airline tickets, and they were actually physical tickets that you put in your,
Sure.
your top drawer until you went on the trip. So when my parents were robbed, and I know how hard it was for them to save that money, because my dad was a sound technician at Universal Studios, and he worked in a small little place, and he was working 48 hours a week. I was like, okay, I got to do something. So my girlfriends pushed me. I got into a couple bikini contests. Within 3 weeks, I had $1,500, gave it to my parents. They went on their trip. And someone said, why aren't you in modeling? I'm like, well, my mom said I was too short. And they're like, oh my gosh, there's every type of modeling. There's fitness and, bathing suits and this. I mean, you should definitely be doing swimsuit stuff. It took until I was 21 to sit there and go, okay, maybe I'll try. And that's late, by the way, very late to get started. But I had kind of an immediate success, and I was willing to basically drive to 6-7 auditions a day to, make my chances a little better. And I never really thought about the auditions that I'd done in a day. I just thought what was going to happen the next day. The only time I really thought about it was when I got a call back. And then I put like, okay, this is a possibility. And so I went to 10 different agencies one day, and the only one that took me was Judith Fontaine. And she's like, your hair is terrible. You got to get those streaks out of it. Shoot with this guy. It'll cost you $150. Get a very cheap Z card, which was a photo. And she's like, I'll start sending you out. Within the first 2.5 months, I booked 12 commercials. And I was like, oh, this is super easy.
What was the drawing card? Why did they select you?
Why did the like Taco Bell and Carefree Sugar's Gum? Why did they select me?
Yes.
Because I was what they were looking for at the time. Okay. That's the only reason anybody ever selects you, is when they've got something in mind and you happen to fall into that category and be it. I don't think the ones I didn't get was because I wasn't good for it. It just wasn't what they wanted. Like with anything, like you don't grab the soda that you're not going to like. You grab the one is, going to work for you and you like the flavor. And I sort of taught myself that from an early age so that I wouldn't take it personal. And I think that's what kept me going, because there's so much rejection in this business, as you probably know. I mean, a handful of people make it, and it's not a very big hand holding them. So
that was just the question I was going to ask, is how do you take rejection and keep your spirits up and keep firing, keep wanting to.
And she figured it out early.
Yeah. I did. Yeah. I feel like I did figure it out early, and I try to tell my kids that. I'm like, hey, I'm not for everyone. I'm not. But I really like who I am, and I try to lead a very authentic, honest life. And I feel like people are constantly, when I'm doing the golf circuit, telling me what a good person I am and how I affected, their family. And, I do that, Russell, quite a bit when someone's like, oh man, I wish my uncle could have met you. And I'm like, give me your phone. I'm going to do a recording. And it's great. It's great because now I've got Cameo is on my social media. So I've got this connection with Cameo where if someone's like, oh, I want Debbie to say happy birthday to my dad. He loved her growing up. And then they call me on Cameo, and I send them a video, and then they own that, and they have that for, the father or the grandfather or the kid, whatever, for the rest of their life. They can give it to them, like at Christmas. I do a lot at Christmas, and that's what someone gives to their dad. I sometimes walk around and someone goes, "Are you somebody?" I'm like, "Well, your dad might know me."
Well, Debbie, and we talked about it early on. I mean, you're not 21, and
no,
yet you're still, because of your healthy eating, and I've been around the shoots enough that you live it, and so as a result, you're a living example of healthy eating and living and staying busy. You're it's funny you said you don't, you're lucky because you have energy, and as you know, I have a 5.5-year-old, and people say to me all the time, "Don't you wish you had her energy?" And I go, "No, not really. I'm pretty happy with my level. I don't think I'd know what to do with her level of energy, but I've got enough." Where'd you get the horseback riding?
Yeah, that was my question. Have you always been a horse lover? And where did you connect in with horses?
We were very poor growing up. So we lived in a spot where we had a bigger backyard than the people next door that had horses. So they brought them over. And I mean, they couldn't have had a better deal. My parents, I don't know, they probably charged them $100 a month, because back then that was a lot. But I took care of the horses, and I continued to take care of the horses. And I remember someone saying to me, "Well, I don't know how you're doing this. I mean, you're not really a real cowgirl." And I said, "Yeah, I'm not really a golfer either. There's a lot of things I'm not. There's a lot of things I'm not, and I'm not going to argue with you, but okay." It's always funny, because what really and truly makes a person a cowgirl or a golfer? It's like, what is it to you? It's different for you than maybe it is to me, but in my heart, I've always been a cowgirl. Since I was a little girl, I'd pop up on a horse, and that horse and I had a relationship. When I was working on home improvement, I owned 2 horses. The stables were right across the street from the studio, and I rode every chance I could, because I'd come to tool time, we'd knock it out in about an hour, and then I wouldn't have to be back for 4 hours. So I would go in the Griffith Park Hills and ride and come back and clean my horse. And, I don't really care when people say you aren't this or you are this. And some people go, "I hear you're a really good golfer." I'm like, well, I'm a good hack. Because if you say you're something, people are going to try to beat you down sometimes about it. So I never argue. I'm like, okay, all right, that's fine. Then watch me have the longest drive every single time. Well, I was like, okay.
Well, I'm never golfing with you then.
You got to.
I will tell you, and this is the truth, when I was helping you early on getting lined up at ranches, and they would ask me almost inevitably, they'd say, well, because I'd tell them, you're going to want to do some different, virtually anything the ranch offers. So if it's walking across the wire a mile above or what, zip lining down, or rock climbing at White Stallion, or whatever it is, you're going to do it. And they would say, well, can she ride? And I'd say, she can ride with your Wranglers. Don't worry about her. Give her a horse that she can do some stuff on, and let her go, because she can do it.
Thank you for that.
No, absolutely true. So let's talk. There's ways people can. You talked about Cameo. I guess I witnessed one of those spontaneous events down there at the Four Deuces in Tombstone, when you gave somebody a greeting. What people can watch you and follow you on what social media?
Yeah, this is a different world. We used to have Facebook and MySpace, and we used to protect our family and not show too many pictures. Well, now we're exploiting ourselves, and we're trying to get more and more people to follow us, because the world has just changed so much. It's something that I had to kind of, get used to, but I wasn't used to this. And then this year, when the Cowboy Channel and I parted ways, I was like, okay, well, now what am I going to do? And I realized that I can produce my own show on TikTok and or YouTube and all these platforms. So yes, I mean, I spell my name differently. It's DebbedUnning, but if you look it up on the internet, you'll find my TikTok and you'll find my YouTube channel, or you'll find my Instagram. And from all of these things, like if you go to Instagram, there's little parts where you can go, oh, visit me on Cameo, and it can get you there immediately. It's really, I'm trying to make it really easy. My daughter's boyfriend, Richie, has set me up. You know, everybody needs a 20-something-year-old in their life to keep us going.
And they got to stay pretty low in the 20s too, because they get into their 30s, they start to fall behind.
Do you find it harder now to keep up with the new ways things are going? You know, there's just things that we do and experience that didn't even exist 10 years ago.
You know, it is a little difficult. I'm not that great at it, but I mean, I'll have talk with my daughter and she'll be like, I think you should have made that into a story instead of a reel. And I'll be like, well, you know what? People know that I suck at this, so they like that I'm authentic and they like that I'm not too polished. They tell me all the time, they're like, we know it's you because you're really not that professional with it. But I think Russell can, you know, back me on this one. I never do anything that's not authentic and not for the first time. So when I would go to dude ranches and anytime we'd film something, I would literally go, I don't want to ask you that. I have to wait till the cameras are rolling because I don't want you to have to re-say it. I want it for the first time. And it has produced some very beautiful moments and great stories between me and a rancher or me and one of the guests. But yeah, with TikTok's fun. I mean, TikTok becomes a job. And if I do a TikTok, you can actually get paid for certain things. And then if there's a company that likes you, say, you know, Stanley Tools or whatever, and they're like, hey, we want you to hold up the tool and, you know, you do like 5 posts, then they'll pay you. And that's great ways of connecting too. I have a few people I'm collaborating with right now that we're working on deals. The Instagram thing is fun for me though, because that is probably the easiest platform and I'm good at it in certain ways. I'm always trying to bring everybody along with me on my stories. Like I have such a fun life and I do so many great things. I love roller skating. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to show everybody I'm roller skating today. And people dig it. They think they're like going with me. Like, how are you doing that? You're 57 years old. Like, you know, until I can't, I don't know. I'm going to do it. Russell, remind me the ranch that I was at that they had the biggest horse ever. Those two, oh gosh, I hate that. I can't remember right now, but let me just tell you the story. I was riding with the daughter and she's like, I can tell you can ride. Do you want to let the horses out? Because at the end of the week, we take them to another pasture. She goes, but you got to be quick. It was so much fun. And the adrenaline was going. And I was like, okay. And she's like, make sure you get to the, like yelling at me. And we're both taking the horses and she got ahead. She opened the gate and then someone came behind and I was leading. Anyway, I didn't even know where I was going, but my horse did. So I just trusted. We got the horses out there and we sat there for a second. And I said, that was probably one of the most thrilling horseback riding feelings I've ever had. And she's like, do you realize we're getting eaten alive by mosquitoes? Let's go. We turned around. I looked down. I'm like, oh my gosh, they love me. I turned around and she goes, do you know how to jump? And I was like, what? She just like, let the horse do its thing. Well, I didn't know how to jump. I didn't know what she meant. I didn't know it was going to be a log over a stream. I didn't know any of it. It was happening so fast. And I was like, okay, just let the horse do its thing. Let the horse. So I held on just a little. I let the reins go so that the horse could do what it wanted. And at the last minute, I had to grab the horn because the horse decided at the last minute it did not want to jump.
Those are the ones that get you when they change direction in the middle of a movement.
Yes. And it went to the left and there was, bushes, but besides those bushes was an electric fence.
Ooh.
And the horse hit the electric fence, which of course I was a little bit hanging on the side of the horse to the right anyway, because it went to the left. It hit the electric fence and took off, and I wasn't on well enough, and I went flying. And I remember going, oh gosh, and it broke through the fence. The fence had to be fixed. And I remember tumbling and rolling like it was slow motion and going, I'm not getting hurt. This is so weird. I'm not getting hurt. And when I landed, I was face down, and I was like, oh, I hope to God I'm not hurt. I hope, please don't let me be hurt. That was one of the best days of my life. So my horse ran back. She came back. She found me. I turned around. I was laying on my back, and tears were coming down my face. And she goes, you seem really hurt. I go, I'm just really happy, because that was probably one of the most incredible things I've ever done in my life. And if I had a bucket list, that would have been one of them that I had to check off. So, I've been thrown 4 times, and people are like, why do you still ride? I ride because I wouldn't miss it for the world. I want to ride till I can't.
Well, they say you're not a cowgirl or a cowboy until you've been off, and 4 times is
not much.
Ordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
not that much, right?
Yeah. Well, that story that definitely is a good Debbie story. It shows your adventure loving attitude. But we've got to wind this up. I want to mention VIP services. You talked to me briefly about this. This is where opportunities, people can maybe do some different activities, go to ranches or go to different golf, things like that.
Yeah.
And this is something else you've got kind of in the works.
Yeah. So I'm working with VIP services now, where everybody's like, oh, I wish I could go to a dude ranch with you. I wish I could golf with you. So this company and I are partnering up. And if you go to VIP services and you look under a celebrity that you happen to wish you could have met or something, there's going to be a menu. It's like going to dinner with Debbie, golf with Debbie, golf in San Diego, golf in Vegas, Dude Ranch, Arizona. I'm putting you in there at the top of the list. White Stallion. I'm putting in Greenhorn Ranch in California. There's going to be a menu and there's going to be a price. So if you want to do that with me, I want to do it. But it's like what I said about working. I'm only going to do things that I love to do. So we've created this platform where if someone wants to do it with me, it's going to be at the best ranches where I feel I'm the happiest. And so that's what I was talking to you prior to this phone call. I want to come out and I want to be around Russell and his wife and the kids, and I want to be where I feel at home. And I also know that the services that we're going to provide are going to be top notch, and the people are going to leave with the same feeling I have. I love this. And that's what I'm going to provide. Whether we go to dinner, we go golfing, we go to an amusement park, I end up marrying you at a wedding. I'm going to become, someone who can ordain so I can marry people. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do with VIP services. So if you find that you want to give somebody a great gift and have me show up at a dinner to surprise them, I'll do that too.
Well, we got to get you that official status, and then you can start marrying people at the Dude Ranch. So that sounds terrific. Well, we've gone way over time, so people can find you. We want to remind them that it's Debbe, little different spelling, Dunning, DUNNING, Debbie Dunning, and Instagram, I think you said, is your favorite platform, but we've got Cameo, VIP services. There's stuff going on, and then just we'll watch for when you get your next show. So
that will be fantastic. Great. And I'm always gonna call you for advice, because you've given me the best advice and you've pushed me and supported me, Russell, and for that I owe you. And I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Oh. Well, we thank you, and you did Dude Ranch is so proud, and we thank you for that on Debbie Dunning's Dude Ranch Roundup. And we'll see you soon. You got to get out to the ranch, so we'll look forward to that.
Okay, I can't wait. Thanks so much, guys, for having me on.
It's been good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, cowboys and cowgals. Hey, Russell, Alan, and Debbie. I'm always amazed. I say it all the time, but you learn more here by accident than most places by design. And we have a good time learning, listening, and just simply enjoying something about the stories of the Western ways. Recently I learned a new word, not really a new word, but I hadn't heard it quite used this way. There's a gentleman who's put together a situation where he wants young men and women to come to a college experience way out in the Western world. And he says what we're trying to do is help these students get back off from all the busyness and all the stuff that's there. Get them in touch with the creation, with the world they live in. We're trying to restore a touch of enchantment into their lives. And I thought, well, that's nice. That's a great word. Enchantment. Well, maybe you could do a little bit of the same thing. The weather's getting a bit cooler up there, but of course, it's just beautiful here in the western world of Arizona. And so you ought to join us sometime where this very program is produced at the White Stallion Ranch, right here in Tucson, Arizona. Check it out at whitestallion.com, whitestallion.com. Maybe this is the year you put a little more enchantment into your life, a little more adventure, doing something different for your family, perhaps for your friends, maybe just a couple. Maybe it's a whole business collection, colleagues. We can create a unique, enchanting experience just for you. So check us out at whitestallion.com, whitestallion.com, and we look forward to seeing you here as you saddle up.
Well, folks, that's a wrap for today. Thank you, Debbie, for peeking to Hollywood and the limelight, and thank you, Stan Huston's production team, for giving this episode life. Tune in next week when horse trainer and animal communicator Anna Twinney joins us for a fascinating episode. If you have some four-legged friends you love, you'll want to give a listen. Until we meet then, I'm Lynn Weezy Sneed, reminding you to sit tall and ride safe.